What is happening around you?
I am just adjusting slightly to the body.
How's the body feeling?
It's feeling much better than usual because of the upgrade that was provided. But before I talk about that, I want to tell you where I was going in the memory, where I saw myself. It is taught school. It is his mystery school. And I am sitting here with some of the students, and he is introducing me to some of his students. And I'm looking around, and they have tanned skin, some of them, and some of them have long hair, and some of them wearing robes or skirts. Some of them have facial hair. And some of them are older, some of them are younger. And these are his students, and they have been waiting to see me. And if I can describe the setting, it's like we are maybe underground or in some type of cave. It's like the walls are stone. And it's been, a little room has been burrowed out. And this is underground, this classroom, and the ground is very cool. And we are just sitting cross-legged in the circle. And we can get up. It is tall enough for people. It's tall enough for me to get up and move around. And there are some symbols on the walls.
What kind of symbols?
Now these are geometries that the students have to learn, and the sacred symbols. Many of them have, some of them have triangles in the shapes. They are carved into the walls. And in this classroom, I have seen him many times. And sometimes he is, the classes that go on, he is producing light from his hands to show the students some things. Sometimes he brings in a projection device. This is an extraterrestrial, I guess, technology. And he is showing the students all around the universe. He is zooming up on some planets and getting the students to observe. It is like a holographic that shows in real time what is happening around the universe, and you can zoom in and observe.
What kind of
And
planets are they zooming into?
well, they are zooming into some planets and observing some extraterrestrial beings. Some of the beings have like eyes on the sides of their heads, and he is showing them how different life is compared to other places, and they are very excited. This is an exciting lesson. Excuse me. What else is he doing? He is zooming in and showing them the central sun of the universe. And he is zooming in and showing them other things as well around this area. And they are taking some notes as well. But first of all, he wants them to just observe without judgment. And now the students are playing with the device. Once he has demonstrated the device to them, now he is getting them to use the device. Oh, one of them dropped the box and the hologram went off, and he laughs and he puts the cube back on the table. It's like a small cube, this device. And the device produces a holographic version of the universe that you can zoom in and see different things. And so he laughs, and then he puts the box back on the table and switches it on again. And then the students take in turns, and then they are zooming in on various places. One of them zooms in and sees a planet with many, many rainbow colors, and this is very exciting. And Toth, he just observes and smiles.
Which planet would that be?
This one, it seemed like it was one in a very beautiful sector of the Andromeda galaxy.
And what do
Yeah.
the rainbows represent? Do they?
Well, it is just like it is a new way of seeing color. They have never seen this sort of thing before. It's not like it represents anything. It is the way that this particular planet is. There are many, many atmospheric conditions that create rainbows everywhere, but also the colors are very, very vivid on this particular world. And then they zoom out, and then they zoom into a planet that looks like it's abandoned, and then makes a comment about how some civilizations destroy the planet's surface and then go within the planet and live inside of it. And then they zoom out, and there is one that is covered in jungle. there are many that they zoom upon, and there is nothing much happening, but he says, please look closer, and they catch a glimpse of much higher dimensional life. And then he says, not everything is as it seems. Please observe closely. And this continues on for quite some time until all of the students have played with the device.
Does he teach them about ascension as well?
Yes. A lot of this was about preserving the methods of ascension and the information that would be needed in the future, and for ascension, for their personal ascension as well, if they chose to do this. And part of the program was, it is an ascension program. So these classes, you take them for I guess the purpose of these classes is to ascend and then to learn more and more things.
And
I'm
what
seeing at one point, sorry,
yeah.
I'm seeing at one point he was trying to teach them about the programming. So he came into the class naked one day without his robes, and the students were quite alarmed. Master taught, please put on your robes. What are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you doing this, Master taught? And he explains to them, well, as you can see, you have programming that tells you that you must wear clothes, and you have not questioned this programming and why it exists. And they think to themselves, oh, but they still avert their eyes. And one of them beforehand, they went to grab some robes that they had around them to try and put on him, but he refuses the robes. He said, no, I want you to learn something. But the students are very uncomfortable because it appears their programming has been challenged. And he explains that they have attached themselves to the programming and they think that it is part of them. So when I challenge the programming, he says, you view it as an attack on you, and you are running to me with robes. Please put these on. But there is no need, he says. The students are wondering about what he just said. And they are considering it, that perhaps maybe that they were wrong. These are some of the ways he taught the students, even in some very unexpected ways.
I guess it's good to challenge the programming as well.
Yes, yes. He did many lessons on programming. This was to begin with. This was at the very, very start. This was at the start. he needed students who would be programmed to begin with, so he began with this sort of thing. And so many of the students were very challenged, and he proceeded to teach them the rest of the class naked. I'm seeing one student walks out. Obviously, he did not make the cut. I think some of his teachings in the first couple of classes, it was sometimes it was weeding out some people who would not be suitable for learning the rest of the content, for example. So then he would have students who were better suited for the course.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. And what were some of the other things that he taught?
He is teaching levitation, but this is later on.
Mm-hmm.
And teaching spinning the Merkaba field and spinning of the light body and this type of thing that they can use the light body as a vehicle and levitate and do all of these types of things.
Mm-hmm.
And he's practicing making forms with light. This is later on, after he has removed the programming from all of the students and done the spiritual preparation to begin with. And after that, then he teaches them the more difficult things. Because as he has said to me, if you do not have a basic form, a blank slate, you cannot continue with the work. So you must have no programming. And also, you must be very discerning with the information that comes. And then afterwards, they learn things like to make a ball of light with the hands. And then they are passing the ball around the circle. And one student breaks his concentration and the ball disappears. And then he says to the student, okay, now you will make the ball of light. You will make it all over again. And then the student has to concentrate. He has to concentrate and make the ball of light with his hands. And he fails a few times and Thoth tells him, try again. And so he makes the ball of light and then they continue to pass the ball of light around the circle again. And if somebody's concentration fails and the ball of light fades away, then they continue this process and that person has to make the ball of light with their hands and then put it around the circle like they are sitting cross-legged. It's like a game, you know, if you don't concentrate and the ball of light, when it reaches you, it fades away, then you have to be the one to make it the next time and then begin to pass it around. So he makes games with these things. He makes it like a fun game. And then they are throwing and catching it to each other, and they must continue with their concentration. And this is much more active. And he throws it, and they have to catch it, and they are standing up now, so it is more difficult for their concentration.
Mhm.
And the game is more rapid, so you have to think quickly.
And what was the purpose of them being taught this?
Well, it was knowledge from Atlantis that had been lost. So he was preserving these. He was preserving these for the future.
Mhm.
So otherwise it would be completely lost, and that would be no good.
So has it continued till now?
Well, there are the Kalu people underground that still have these teachings, but the Kalu people that traveled on the surface, they went into places like India, Tibet, and Nepal,
Mhm.
these sort of places, and they handed on some of their knowledge to the spiritual communities there, the mysticism, but some of the monks in these areas, they had continued on the knowledge, and then some of them forgot about all of these. There is not much left, so I think we will have to start from scratch.
Mhm. Where was the mystery schools located?
Well, this one underneath the ground was in Egypt.
Mhm.
It was under the earth, and the walls they were made of stone,
Mhm.
and they had markings on them.
Was that the one underneath one of the cubes, one of the pyramids? Is that the White Pyramid? I'm not sure.
Yes, it is. It's a little bit further down than this, but I don't think this is accessible anymore, this room.
Okay.
It has been, yes, it has been caved in somewhat, and it's been reduced to rubble.
Mhm.
But it used to be there. It used to be underneath the pyramids, these teaching rooms.
Mhm.
And underneath the general area of this as well. I'm seeing there was a few classrooms that he used to do this in.
And when he invited you, did he want you to just assist in his class, or what was the purpose of?
Yes, yes, yes. He wanted me to assist with some things that I was very good at teaching.
Mhm. Was it the light that you could emit through your hands, or what was it?
Well, I could also do this, but it was more important than that. It was teaching about the feminine way and very advanced magic. I am seeing that I'm showing them a lotus from my hand. I am seeing that I am showing them a real lotus that comes out from my hand, not just light, but it appears as light first, and then it densifies into form. I don't know how else to say this. It condenses into a form and becomes a real flower in my hands. So this is what you might call instant manifestation. So I show them the form. In it first, it is like the light balls that they took around. So after the light ball class, they had to make different things with the light. They had to make different forms, like move on from using a ball. They had to make like a sword type of thing and different shapes using the light, and the shield and all types of things using the light. So they had to make different forms. They couldn't just keep it into a ball. But then the time that I was invited as well, it was a much more advanced light lesson, light form lesson. So I made the light form in my hands and then solidified it into a physical form. And then there was a flower in the middle of my hands, and I demonstrated it to them. And they are like, wow, would you look at that? And they are very interested in this. And so they start to do it and make a flower in their hands. This is one of the first things that Elohim are taught actually, to make flowers. But I was teaching it to the humans in this instance, to make real flowers and to manifest a flower that comes out of their hands. And sometimes they don't get it right, of course. And there is one that looks like a bomb. It's very deformed in the shape. It looks very silly, like it looks like a peach or something. And so they have to try again, make the petals. And then one person made it and it's very, very tiny. Looks like just one petal. And so we are going around and teaching. And Toth makes a flower too. And he demonstrates to the students how he makes the flower. And he makes a different colored one. And he makes it very perfectly. And this is something that he brought me in for, because he said that I teach it in a very good way. And he likes to have me in the class helping. And so I was helping some students to make a flower. And eventually somebody got it. And we were very excited. It was very beautiful and big. A flower in their hands.
It's pretty cool. Is that something that your lower self can bring back now, or?
This will be much more difficult to do unless the vibrations are rising a little bit more. This is something that would be good for future use, however, but at the moment there is still the vibration still needs to be risen significantly. This is what I was talking about last time. We still have a long way to go. And this is my main focus at the moment, is raising the vibration of the earth so we can start to do these things, start with the basics.
Mm-hmm. Were the students, did the students consist of male and female, or were it was a mixture?
Mostly they were male, but
Mm.
there was some in a more feminine school that I was part of as well.
Mm-hmm.
They had students in a masculine school and a feminine school, and sometimes they came together at the very end to learn a very important lesson.
There are groups of entities that target ascension teachings, such as Jesus's teachings and Thoth's teachings. For example, who are they and why do they target these teachings, would you say?
When there are actually more than one group that are doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Most of these have been gotten rid of at the moment, but the remnants of what they were doing still remain somewhat. There are still some at large that need to be caught, but these groups generally have, you would say that they are demonic influences, and there are some that are like taking control, so to speak, so that the earth does not become higher vibration. This is what was feared by these sort of teachings, is people are getting empowered and then the earth is becoming more high vibration. So it stops the feasting process for the demonic energies. If people are empowered within themselves by these types of teachings, so that they had to infiltrate these teachings especially. One of these groups was called the Levite group. And this one was a group that made false, how would I say, they made a false ark of the covenant.
Mm-hmm.
They made one that was to trick people, not the original one, which is Elohim made. So there are multiple arcs of the covenant floating around, unfortunately. And some of these were from groups that wanted to infiltrate throughout history. Generally, what you would call service to self entities. And there have been various attempts to, well, take away the knowledge of Jesus and Thoth and ascended masters. They target various ascended master teachings on the earth. And I see they also target it in the modern age by influencing people who are writing about things. They especially like to influence people who put written material out there. Like, for example, anyone who is writing articles about this type of thing, or I'm seeing some channeling as well.
Mm-hmm.
And they like to influence this to take away some of the power of these teachings and to circumvent the true nature of these, like to lead one astray to lead the person astray. So they will implant in written material
Mhm.
some true things. So it sounds legitimate, but then they will implant false things along with the true things. So it becomes very hard to distinguish. And this is how they have corrupted written materials, messages, channeled messages, articles, or videos, and all of these kinds of things, especially in the modern age with videos, they began to target these as well, but mostly it has been written materials that they have been targeting.
Mhm.
So they zoom in and focus focus their attention on a person who would write this type of thing, like write a book
Mhm.
to do with this, to do with the teachings, or like information from higher beings.
Yeah.
And they would target these people, especially the ones that want to write a book or write material about this. And they insert all kinds of things into it that lower the vibration. If one reads this or watches this material, then the vibration is lowered just from reading or watching or looking at it. That's why one must be very careful and to listen to their gut feeling. If you are reading or looking at something and you feel like a twisting sensation in the gut or the lower belly or the heart, that means that you should stop what you are looking at and cease to look or watch this stuff, because there has been infiltration here. And my lower self experienced this recently with a video she was linked by somebody else. And it contained information that was infiltrated by one of these groups. And it was for the purposes of lowering the vibration.
Mhm.
So there was a reaction from within that I gave to her to stop her from watching this video. And it was a very intense reaction. And so she ceased watching it immediately. And then the vibration did not lower.
What was the video about?
And the video was about a particular woman who was channeling information.
Mhm.
It was about especially this woman had been infiltrated at this time. So it was about a number of things and contained information about the Elohim as well that was incorrect, and contained some information that was true, but also it contained information that was false. So it
Mhm.
contained information about Elohim and various, well, I guess, watchers.
So are the watchers the same as the custodians that Dolores spoke about in her books, or are they different?
Well, there are various watchers. The Elohim would be considered the watchers of the watchers of the watchers. But this one was like, it was about various watcher races and groups, various groups that would be helpful in watching humanity in the background and watching the progress of the universe. So it would be of utmost importance that this information be pure, however, it was not.
Mhm. Would you say everybody's watching what's happening on Earth right now?
Yes, on various levels, everything is being watched. Not only watched, but recorded. Everything is being recorded and watched. Many beings are watching. Some of the beings are watching for educational purposes, but some of the beings are watching because they have plans that they need to partake in regard to this. There are many plans, and we are watching just to make sure that everything is going to plan.
So nothing's a secret, like some people would want it to be.
No, well, there have been secrets kept in the past by very sneaky means. However, we are getting more and more better at finding out and uncovering this sort of magic before it begins. Our methods are getting better and better for the more sneaky ones who use a certain type of what you would call magic or manifestation to hide things.
How can people release the programming so that they can move forward with the spiritual progress, would you say?
Okay, so the best method is to find the light within. And once this light is found within, even a small part, if you cannot find the light within, then you go straight to source and connect this light to your light, or what you think of as your light, and visualize the God source or the all that is, removing a particular programming from you. You can sit in meditation and visualize this light, the light of the all that is, just burning up anything that is discordant and not of the original intention. And you make it so that this is to happen. You set the intention that this programming will be burnt up by the light of the all that is within you and without you, in every aspect of you in space-time. This programming will be burnt up by this light. And then you can say, and so it is, or something like that at the end. Or if you are doing a prayer, for instance, you can do a prayer for God to burn up this programming. And then you can say amen at the end, or anything that you feel comfortable with. It just depends on you what sort of method you would like to use.
Mm-hmm.
But all of this works for removing any programming that you may have.
Thank you for that. What does the Christ consciousness have to do with ascension?
Well, it has everything to do with ascension. Everything to do with ascension. This is the very premise of ascension, is to connect in with this light within. You see, the Christ consciousness is actually becoming the God within the self, the light within the self. the source energy that exists within the self and bringing it outside of the self. And this is creating like a different world each time somebody brings this energy out. It is creating a different world. So you are taking the energy from within yourself, the sun that exists within, the light, the flame that exists within, the all that is, the inner universe that exists within yourself. And you are locating this, feeling this, discovering this. And then after you discover this, you radiate it out, outside of you. And this helps other people. Why it is called the Christ consciousness is because this is what Jesus did. This is the very premise of what he did to begin with. Well, he had his higher self, which is Yahweh, and he brought this from within and he brought it without. He brought it to the outside of himself because he discovered this within himself, the highest aspect of who he is. And some people get confused about the term higher self, but this is just a label. This is what I would prefer to call the true self, the self without any programming or veils. And he brought the true self and he flipped it outside of himself. He radiated it outside of himself and then began to create miracles, or what you would call miracles, with this flame that existed within. And he said that, he was the Father and that was within him, and that is what he meant by this, is that he himself was, his true self was revealed in this moment, and he brought this from within to outside. And in doing so, it helped others to find their inner self and bring this to outside and create miracles because of this.
Mhm.
Using the inner flame, the inner light within, is always through going within that one finds this, the true self, without any programming, without anything else. It is always through going within.
Mhm.
So it is said that Christ consciousness is actually, it is all about finding the true self and going within. And well, you don't need to find it if you already know that it is there. You just need to access it. And just even accessing it just a tiny bit will prove to be very, very useful in the months and years that comes.
Mhm. So why are some people, does it seem like some people have a hard time connecting with this for themselves?
Well, there are so many distractions.
Mhm.
There is so much that tells you that you have to look outside of yourself instead of look within.
Mhm.
There is so many to draw the eye and the attention to outside of the self and to amuse the self with all of these, irrelevant things
Mhm.
instead of going in within first. Look, there is so many distractions that are available, but also the programming that starts when the children are very small and the children are told that They must look without rather than find the answers within. That they must, for example, look in the book and get their information from the book, otherwise they are wrong. And they must follow the teacher, otherwise they are wrong. And they must, appeal to authority, otherwise they are wrong. And they are given rewards when they appeal to authority. And they are given punishments if they look within and find the answer from themselves. If they don't do the thing that is written in the textbook, the how-to method, if they find their own method that works perfectly fine, suddenly the teacher is getting very angry. And the school system is very demonic in nature, actually. And Apollo has said this. He is very harsh on the schools. He does not like the schools on earth. And we all agree that the school system is of demonic origin. It's very, very dark, this system. And it has become worse. It has become worse in a sense. But it was always bad. It was always seeded in this.
So back to the Christ consciousness, the way that we activate it is to find the light within, did you say?
Yes, to find to access the source particle within you. That is how you find it. But also Apollo and I are guardians of the Christ consciousness in a sense. Because we are, makers of the blueprint and the light within. So the energy that we radiate is a light within that makes other beings, their light within, glow very much too. So it makes their light glow very strong. That is the sort of power that we have to, I guess, make their light shine brighter. When we shine our light bright, then that makes everyone else's light shine very bright as well. It makes it bigger.
So would you say just by tuning in and listening to these messages that you have, that's like an activation to those people that listen?
Yes, very much so, very much so. The people that would be listening would be wanting to access that part of themselves more and more. And I would encourage this going within before you even talk to other beings or channel other beings. It is so important that you familiarize yourself with that inner world and the true self within. And the selves within, whatever they may be, sometimes just opening the door to this and the fact that there have been other selves and past life selves, it opens another door, which opens another door, which leads to the true self.
So when you do BQH sessions and QHHT sessions, that's sort of like the part of yourself that you're accessing, like the past, and then in order to sort of like peeling off the layers. Is that right?
Yes, yes, yes. It's going within. It's going within and beginning to read that book within the self. Although some beings have much programming that they still have to undo. So it would be best to focus on the inner journeys of removing this programming, because some of them are externally focused and still want to prefer to channel other beings other than listen to themselves at this time. It would be wise to use these sessions, especially to remove the programming so that you can access more and more into the self. Because some people have the spiritual gifts but still focus externally.
Is that part of the, I guess, with the schooling system that you were talking about before, how they teach you that the information it's outside of you and not inside of you?
Yes, very
Like,
much so.
yeah.
This is an appeal to authority, which is a programming that is instilled on us when we go into the school system. It is, you have to, for example, there may be someone who is very spiritual, but they still are not listening to themselves. So they appeal to an authority outside of them, such as an ascended master or an archangel or something. And they appeal to this being first and only feel like the information coming from this being is what is the best sort of thing instead of what is coming from within. So they are placing much importance on something that is outside of them. And these beings will still help them, but in this case, some beings might come in and take advantage of this situation and be false in a sense. They will be false ones that will give false information because that person hasn't still not figured out what is happening within themselves, and what is happening within themselves would actually be very, very useful in distinguishing the real from the false.
I think that's very important to remember. Thank you for that. What or who are the archons, would you say?
I do not like these ones. I was about to say a curse word, excuse me. They are very, very sneaky beings, have been very hard to get rid of. They are some of them are currently still hiding. And their butts are going to get kicked. But you would consider the being known as a pep to be one of these things. These are beings that are, I guess they are controllers. They are controllers of this world. This, well, not anymore, but they were controllers of this world. They were controllers of, they were the makers of the dysfunctional blueprint, the dysfunctional spiritual blueprint of this earth. So, okay, originally the blueprint of this earth was made by higher beings, such as the angelic realm and Elohim, in conjunction with Helios. So I am very, very cranky about these beings because it was like they scribbled over our work to do with this solar system, because Apollo and I made the blueprint for this particular system when we did the creation process with Helios. He provided the, well, he provided the, it's actually he provided the blueprint, and then we visualized the line work, you know. When you make a drawing, for example, you do the line work. So Helios presented us with a proposal, and then we, Apollo and I, helped to make the blueprint for this. And this is what we do. We are blueprint makers in a sense. And all of the other Elohim have different roles. For example, in this, the Elohim Council has each one has a different role, but this is in particular Polo and I's role is like visualizing the lines that are going to create the system, the lines made out of light that, you know, when the other Elohim, they put in their portion, then it becomes something, and it becomes a form, but our portion in particular is the line work before the other Elohim come in and finish off the project. So if you can imagine the line work, and they scribbled on this and made something different. They did their own doodles on this and created something that was abhorrent. So they changed the line work, and we have been making it right and erasing these scribbles that they drew on the line work. I'm just saying this in simple terms so that people can understand that they graffitied the earth. I wouldn't say graffiti is the right word, but they changed the blueprint of this earth to make it malevolent, to make this matrix not good, to, how do I say it? They created much dysfunction by changing and tweaking the blueprint. That is what I want to say. So of course, Apollo and I want to smack their bottoms very, very much. These are some beings. One of them looks like a worm. And then there is a Pep as well, and he has been taken. And there's one that is very ugly, looking like a worm, and has a very, very hideous face. And this is just the form that it has, this type of thing. So these are beings that have lorded over the matrix of the earth. They would consider themselves lords of the matrix because they have altered the blueprint of the earth. But they are on the run. They have hidden now, and we have caught most of them. There is still a couple of them at large. So if we are still in the process of looking for a couple of them, but we have caught most of them. And they have been sent up to the trial. But I was very angry with what happened with these ones. Very cranky. And of course they had minions, and they advised the minions below them, and you would consider some of these minions to be, they would be what is known as demonic beings, which is just the polar opposite of the positive polarity. And then there would be negative extraterrestrials that would be listening to some of these beings. And I in particular, I really don't like these ones. So I took it upon myself to catch some and imprison them because I really don't like them. Anyway, I just thought it would be best if I caught them. Yes. So I caught some of these, and some of them are considered to be fallen angels too, but some of them are just what you would call very powerful negative entities
Mhm.
that know this type of creation magic. They have this awareness to change the blueprint of things. So of course, I'm very cranky with them because they changed Helios's project, not his project, but they changed the solar system, and Helios was very, very cranky. And he came to us specifically and told us about all of this stuff that happened. And this is the soul of the sun of this system in particular. The sun was very cranky, you would say,
Mhm.
with these beings, and summoned us in particular to take care of them.
So did they that would be different to what we consider the reptilians and things.
Oh,
Different.
well, the reptilians are underneath them in a sense,
Okay.
but they are different to the reptilians. Yes, they are much different to the reptilians. The reptilians don't have two brain cells to rub together compared to these things. They are
Mhm.
very sneaky and very intelligent.
Would you say that the royal family is managed by the reptilians, or?
Yes, they were managed by these as well, but more importantly, they were taking orders from demonic entities
Mhm.
as well. The reptilians are I want people to understand that in the pecking order of things, reptilians are actually lower down compared to some of these archons. The archons would be considered very close to the top, along with, what you would know of as Satan and Lucifer and these types of beings.
Mhm.
Fallen angels and archons would be at the top, and then they would be directing ones that are underneath them.
Mhm.
And the reptilians are and negative extraterrestrials are lower on the pecking order than these beings that we are speaking of.
Okay. Would you say that certain ETs are targeting humanity's ascension to infiltrate and give false information?
Yes, unfortunately, this has been happening somewhat. However, largely, this is being stopped where we can see it happening. However, I would be cautious I would want people to be cautious with their channelings and whatnot, because this still continues to occur. And if one does not have the inner strength and determination within themselves in order to scan the being and to find out in their soul heart what that being's intention and purpose is, then I would say that they are too inexperienced to do this at the moment and will have to learn how to do it in order to keep themselves and their message safe.
Mm-hmm. People say that great ETs are also evil and infiltrating. What is actually happening there?
When they were doing this in the past, they are somewhat different types of them. So more on the where there are certain factions of them that are more negative than others. However, this was due to desperation. this negativity that came from them. It was not like the same level of intention, for example, such as the reptilians or the demonic energies. It's not the same at all. It was rather out of fear and desperation that they had to think that they would be best to control some humans so that they could get genetic material and access to easy access to humans to get genetic material. So it was more of a panic state and they reacted from fear. And of course, there are karmic consequences to do with this. So the race has been, well, the collective, the hive mind of their race has been visited by the lords of karma. And these lords have told them that they are to cease with this type of thing, this desperation and control of humans. So otherwise they will have a lot of problems and they will have to repay the karma to humans for many, many years afterwards, many millions of years, if they interfere with this too much. So they have been warned, those factions.
So when your lower self was a child, what happened when she saw the grey ET in her room?
It was very funny because she reacted very, it got a rude shock, this one actually. It was pelted with a ball of light and it ran away. It didn't come back, but I'm seeing that I was protected all along, so there was not so much of an issue with this. However, my team just wanted to figure out how I would respond to such a situation. So they were hiding in the background and waiting for me to, they wanted to see what I would do. And I produced a ball of light from my hands and threw it at the being. And they are laughing. And it ran away. And so it was not so bad actually. They were just seeing what I would do. So this was allowed in a sense. But it did not make a return, this one. It was but it was important for the guides of Elizabeth to see back then what she would do, because there was some question as to whether she will remember some abilities that she had before. And there was no question in this instance when the lower being was threatened that she would produce some kind of light to defend herself.
So is this still a ability of hers?
Yes, it's still, she can still do this. However, there has been some programming in the way to do with this. When she did this when she was very little, like around 5 years old and 4 years old, around this time. So I will just release this. I will release the programming to do with this. I'm just releasing it from my body. I'm shedding this programming because as as she got older, she forgot all about this,
Mm-hmm.
and she didn't remember how to defend herself in these kinds of situations. And I'm just releasing this for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And you can continue to ask questions.
Okay. So the wiping of mankind's spiritual abilities, deities, have anything to do with that?
Well, some of them certainly did. The ones that you would call archons,
Mm-hmm.
certainly they had a hand in this. They had a hand in infiltrating things and altering the matrix of the earth so that beings would begin to get in a major way. See, they tweaked the forgetfulness level of the earth. The archons in particular, this is the matrix where everything is wiped when one incarnates on the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And the loop-in programming for some beings, so they will continue to reincarnate over and over and over again without a break, which is what one might equate to a hell-like existence. So some beings were targeted in this sense, and this is being released. And the solar flash event will completely release this matrix. Actually, it will completely dissolve it. So these beings will not have to continue to reincarnate again and again and again in a loop situation.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the question again?
So the wiping of mankind's spiritual abilities, did
Oh,
it
yes,
have anything to do with it?
yes. Well, there was that, but I went off on a tangent about the reincarnation looping, but I feel like that is a part of it actually.
Mm-hmm.
Is certainly forgetting and then looping again and again and again into forgetfulness. It is like a false reality. But also there was taking away of other abilities after Atlantis had fallen, and that was to do with the programming of humanity. That was their own programming and fears. So you could say that, it has been both. It has been programming that is like through fear, but also there has been some extraterrestrial influence in taking away some of their abilities. Always the negative ones would do this, but also there can be some things that they tell people to lead them away from their true nature. And this would be considered a wiping of their spiritual abilities because, for example, the focus on the external self instead of internal.
Mm-hmm.
They are giving people all kinds of distractions to do with this so that they are forgetting to look within. Then some of them are being stopped at the moment to do with this, and there will be less and less of this as we are going forward, and more emphasis put on looking within to find the messages, because some of these messages, and my lower self has been seeing it, some of these messages that people are getting and posting have been more and more ludicrous. So you will see this more and more, an exposure as the light grows much brighter. Some
Mm-hmm.
of these external messages become more and more ludicrous. Mind you, there are many beings at this time that are helping humanity and giving them lots of messages to do with enlightenment and helping themselves. And these messages will generally have a very different tone. And if you feel inside the belly, you can know that it is not lowering the vibration.
Mhm.
You will begin to find out more and more what certain vibration feels like and to gauge it when you read or listen to something. This is something that you must begin to develop, and it will become stronger and stronger in people who are on this path. And for others, they will receive very ludicrous messages, and you will wonder, what is this all about? Well, it is about being exposed by the light. These false messages no longer resonate within you.
Mhm. Are there correctional facilities for souls who keep destroying planets and stopping ascension?
Yes, yes. This has been in the works. This has been in the works. It is more like an educational facility for them, a situation for them. So the lords of karma have decided that such a thing would be very beneficial because it appears like some beings do not understand karma to do with this.
Mhm.
They do not understand much at all. So they continue to destroy and to create many, many problems time after time, so much so that the lords do not know what to do with them, sort of thing. Like they create so much karma for themselves that it will take billions and billions and billions of years for them to repay this. So they thought to themselves, what would be the best way to resolve this in an efficient manner so that this process can be sped up. It will be, I guess, more difficult for them, but it will be sped up. So these are in the works as we speak, so that this universe in particular can come back into alignment at the time that it is meant to come back into alignment to do with the cycles.
Mhm. So in the past, you said that the Dark Ones tweak the Earth matrix to make the amnesia a lot more forgetful. How would people be able to remember more of who they are?
This is being undone as we speak as well. This is being completely undone, and it will be undone completely by the time that the solar flash occurs. It will completely obliterate this matrix where things were too forgetful. It will completely obliterate the, what would I say, the dysfunction of what the archons put in place. So there will be some forgetfulness, but it won't be complete.
Mhm.
So there will still be learning opportunities. However, to remember from within themselves, to find that light and just to feel it, just to feel it, just to start to feel into the body and to feel that light within you. This is enough to start to remember things. When the light is flowing through the body, through
Mhm.
the veins, and you visualize this, the light from God or source or your inner self, the true self flowing forth. And if you just visualize this and visualize this light going through, then the remembrance can start to begin who one really is. So the veil is off as soon as the light codes are available to be let into the body. Of course, there is some programming to do with this that will need to be taken off beforehand in some instances
Mhm.
before one can even begin to feel the light and to feel this changing them, and then they will begin to remember later on. So it will be a process, but it will be like opening a Pandora's box, and then you go into another thing and another thing and another thing, and then you will go deeper and deeper into this remembering of who one really is.
Mhm.
Once one begins to peel off the layers of the onion, and you might peel off one layer today and think, okay, let me take a break, and then you sit for a week and meditate on this, and then peel back the other layer, and just continue to go one step at a time until this process is complete.
Mhm.
And you will know that you are getting close to the truth of who you are when you are remembering more and more and having grand spiritual epiphanies about yourself and about the world that you live in and about the true nature of things. It is like a person is wearing 10 sets of glasses, and they take off one set of glasses and they see differently, and they take off another set of glasses, and so on and so forth.
Mhm. Makes sense. More and more people are seeing the sun has changed color. You mentioned previously the Elohim programmed the color to a more bluish light. Are the people that are seeing this, what is happening to them?
Well, they are quite aware now, these people. They are responding to the light within more and more, and they are beginning to see things how they truly are. And so this is quite frightening to the ones who still think that they are in some sort of control of the earth. This is quite frightening that people's perceptions are beginning to change, and they are beginning to see the light of the sun that is different, and they are receiving this light. They are receiving it. These people are the ones that are beginning to receive these codes more and more. And when they look at the sun, they are seeing the true nature of how things are, because they are letting these codes into their bodies. And these codes are beginning to integrate themselves within not only their physical bodies, but their entire beingness.
Mhm. So the more they expose themselves to the sun, more of this can go into the body and bring that remembrance back.
Yes, yes, yes. To look at the sun actually is not so harmful, especially if one does it in the afternoons.
Mhm.
And this can bring back a remembrance of how things are, or the sunrise, for example. And to look at this and to feel the sun on one's skin, and to breathe these light codes in, to visualize breathing this in,
Mhm.
and this coming through the crown of the head. If you do not want to look at it, you can just close your eyes and then face the sun with your head towards it, with the top of your head towards the sun.
Mhm.
And this will help with this as well, or to go for walks when the sun is over your head. And this is going down the pole. This is going down the prana pole
Mhm.
through the body that I spoke of previously.
Mhm.
These codes are coming from the lotus in the top of the head coming down, down, down into this source light pole called the prana pole that goes down through the middle of the body. And so this light is being fed in through this pole down into the body, into all of the bodies. And this is very much how people can evolve, is through the codes are coming down through this pole and being fed into the being.
Mhm.
So one must allow themselves to be a vessel for this type of thing by clearing away any gunk that would impede the prana pole and removing any programming that pinches off the prana pole. And already I have instructed to the sun to, or Helios, this being, to help to remove this from the pole, to help the sun to break away some of the crud that's around the people as this light comes through them, to
Mhm.
break away some of the crud.
So how does that get blocked up, would you say?
It's by the programming, but also by the design of the matrix, is pinching off this at the age, around the age of 8. This is very much pinched off in many people.
How is
So
it pushed off?
it's pinched off through the programming and through how the matrix is. So this is like blocked up, full of crud and
Mhm.
programming. If you can imagine a person and they have like they are like a being of light at the base level, and if you can imagine there is all this mud around this being of light, one would have to start to clean the mud off before you can see the being in its fullness. And so this mud is the programming in this type of thing. And once this crud is removed, then this source light can come through much more easily, come through the being. And of course, they like to program to close this off in the schools, doing things like appealing to authority and not going within themselves, and traumatization of the being, and all sorts of programs that come through the families and through religion, and all of these types of avenues are ways that they can fill the prana pole up with this disgusting mud.
Mhm. What has happened to the physical body after the UFO encounter? What has changed? What was changed?
Well, it has been switched to a higher vibrational frequency
Mhm.
at the cellular level, and this will continue to evolve throughout the year and forward from this. But this was a big upgrade, in a sense, a very, very big upgrade. So she will no longer tolerate certain foods and certain attitudes and ideas.
What kind of foods would you say is best that she should eat?
More vegetables, certainly. She does not eat enough vegetables, and it would be best to have more fresh vegetables as well.
Mhm.
And it would be best, even though the mother has told her that all blood groups have to have more meat, this is not true as she is evolving, and meat is going to start to feel very heavy in the body.
Mm-hmm.
So a more vegetarian diet would be preferable. We can continue slowly and have some, maybe a pescatarian diet going forward. But for example, having a high vegetable content vegetarian type of diet, or a diet that does not have so much meat in it,
Mm-hmm.
because this is beginning to feel rather dense in the body. And of course, the beef and the fried foods are the worst to do with this. So I would recommend the lower self to avoid eating beef, especially, and these types of things, and just to continue with maybe incorporating slowly more fish and vegetables into the diet, and then we can wean the self off rather slowly in this instance, because this is a process, of course, and I don't want the body to go into too much shock from getting rid of this entirely. Still want to conserve the energy source.
Mm-hmm. So the protein or the whatever she was consuming, whatever was the idea behind eating more beef, where can she consume those vitamins from now?
Well, there are various vegetables that will do it actually.
Mm-hmm.
Vegetables that do not have the alteration in the soil. More and more she will be drawn to cleaner foods and cleaner eating. So if she would stop her meal service that is primarily meat-based and opt for a vegetarian one, this would start the next phase. I would strongly recommend, although, for example, sometimes tofu can be processed in a manner that is not efficient because it is heavily genetically modified. In this case, I would recommend for the GMO food to blast light at it, to imagine light going into the food and reverting back to the original to do with this. And if there is some problem with the tofu in this instance, this will change it completely to a far more better alternative. If one visualizes the light changing the molecules of the food, then this can be done.
Thank you for that. Would you be able to provide a healing around clairvoyance and being able to see more things?
Of course, my lower self shut this off because she saw some things that were quite scary. I will just place my energy into the eyes,
Mm-hmm.
and it's okay to see again. And Arcana will also help with this, but more importantly, I would like to the take-home message to be drink a lot of water and to switch to a vegetarian meal-based service.
Mm-hmm. So it's going to help her.
Yes.
Yeah.
She knows which one. She knows which one she will switch to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So just a question around guides. Is that like when you incarnate here, do you choose the guides that are going to help you in your lifetime, or is it how does that work?
Well, you have an agreement with each other on the higher levels.
Mm-hmm.
You do have an agreement with yourself. So if you do not like a particular guide, you can decide to, well, stop the guidance, for example. If you do not feel drawn to a particular guide, or you do not feel that it is necessary, but most of the time people really like working with the guides that they have, and they are drawn to each other for a reason.
Mm-hmm. So who would you say your guides are?
Well, I have several guides, many. Well, you would consider that my soul family is also part of this. So it is a very different situation with mine. I have like a full team behind me that has, there is very many of them, like almost like a headquarters of beings
Mm-hmm.
that are looking and guiding and observing. So Apollo is the one who has the most ability to intervene.
Mm-hmm.
He is the one who has maximum authority in this situation. So he is the primary guide for my life,
Mm-hmm.
and he has the most ability to intervene. He has the most authority, and he especially decided to be part of this because he loves me very much.
Mm-hmm.
So this was very important for him, and of course, because he can be anywhere in the universe, he actually can do many things at once, as well as being my guide constantly. So whenever I have a question for him, or the lower self wants to connect with him, he comes straight there, and he is always by my side in this instance.
Mm-hmm.
He is consistently there for me at all times, helping me and being here, being present. But also there are other Elohim that have decided to come on board with this. One of them is Athena as well. She has been guiding me somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I have guides that come and want to just experience for a little while, and then they leave. But most of the time it is Arcana and Apollo at the moment that is the main ones that assist me, but also all of the other Elohim in the council. They take a guiding role in what I am doing.
Mm-hmm.
And well, one never is away from the council. The council is always with me, in a sense. Like, how would I say? I am always, even the council even influences the lower self. And this is very important. And the council, I am part of the council, and I influence the council as well, and everyone has a say on things. But the council especially is influencing the lower self, or not influencing, but helping along the lower self.
Mm-hmm.
it is the strong guidance of the council. So if something is no good, if something is really no good for me, the council will talk to my cells, and they talk to this aspect of self, and then I feed it into the lower self. And then Apollo is, sometimes the council approaches Apollo, and Apollo directly intervenes when the lower self cannot be reached. We have protocols and various, I guess, methods in case for something happens and this fails. So we go on to the next thing, the next protocol to do with this. And then, there is the direct intervention, which is what Apollo is in control of. And usually this would not be the case for beings, but this is a special particular case. Normally, guides would not interfere on this level, but I have allowed this. I have allowed this as part of my free will. I allow Apollo to intervene at this level, so it is allowed. And I allow the council to step in as necessary as well.
Now, I was talking to your lower self before the session, and she was saying that Simon died. She believes that Simon died in the 90s, the guide that we were introduced to last week. So is that when he became my guide, or how does that work?
No, he became your guide rather recently, actually. So he just died at that time. However, he went to do a guide training and course to learn how to be a guide. And this took some time. And then he decided to take part in this after he finished his training. He is very, very excited to be a part of the things that you do. So this is a rather recent one that has been assigned to you. So there are ones that come in, we have new ones, and then there are ones that move out sometimes. The guides, there are ones that are permanent within the life, but there are ones that come and go. And Simon is one that has been assigned to you that is new at this time. And Arcana, for example, he was a new one that appeared to me. Around April of last year, he appeared to me. And the lower self began to see him. And this was, I guess, when he began to come into the picture, was the beginning of last year. Arcana was introduced to the team.
Thank you for that. So why was Simon introduced just recently? Did the vibration change, or?
Yes, you have upgraded in your levels. Excuse me, there was just a being trying to infiltrate before, so I am sending some of my angels after it. That's okay though. There was just my lower self as well could hear something in in the headphones there was a being that was trying to infiltrate. So we sent some angels to catch it. So this will not interrupt the session again.
Thank you.
But as you were saying, what were you saying before? I'm sorry, that being rudely decided to interrupt.
That's all right. Who was that being?
Oh, and this was the lower vibrational being that
Mhm,
decided to, there was a disturbance in the force, if it were a being, because these archons, they have many minions. It was a minion that was attempting to infiltrate, but I have very much protection and I will not allow any beings into these sessions that have this type of infiltration. That, well, what I'm trying to say is I can sense if a being has very bad intentions and
mhm,
ones that would attempt to infiltrate are caught immediately as they try to attempt to do this.
mhm. So I was saying with Simon, did he get assigned because of the vibration that changed?
Yes, yes, yes. Your beingness, it rose up in level. This is to do with your future path. And
Mhm,
Simon will be with you until the solar flash event as well.
mhm.
He will be guiding you through this process.
Okay, so as people ascend, they get the people or well, the guides backing them up for what their the next step is. Is that how you want me to?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Well, as there are more and more who are spiritually awake, there are some guides that are brought onto their teams to assist them further because it would be looking like that person or being is very promising. So more guides are brought onto that person's team as they begin to ascend or start this process more and more or continue on this path. More are brought in to assist.
Mhm. Okay. Is there anything that he needs me to know at this time, or?
Well, it would be good to note that your body is changing too.
Mhm,
That is definitely part of the process that he can help you with, to change the diet in particular. Everyone who is on this path will begin to feel different in the body.
mhm. So the higher self is that, so that's the core aspect of you, is that right?
Yes, well, you have various higher selves actually, but
Okay.
there is one that is the true self, if you will.
Mhm,
The And this is just the aspect of source energy that is stripped away of any sort of identity. And this is like the flame within who you are. And so it is more of a vibration than or a feeling than, something that is having a name and a face. So it is far more abstract. And you would consider this to be the inner universe. a universe onto its own.
Mm-hmm.
So when you are familiarizing yourself with this inner universe is becoming more and more developed, the more evolved you are. The inner self
Mm-hmm.
is it is responding to the light without. The light within and the light outside responds to each other in an infinity motion. The light outside and the light in, and it keeps being fed within and without. And as we respond to this, we are getting more and more involved with the highest aspect of self. It depends upon, however, the evolution of the being.
Mm-hmm.
That really depends on the evolution of the highest aspect of self. But the highest aspect of self is actually, it is all within.
Mm-hmm.
And my highest aspect of self is 12th dimensional and beyond, because I am an Elohim being, and this will differ for all of the other beings depending on their evolution level.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. I've just got one last request. Would you be able to see what's happening with my dog's ear?
There is some type of fungus in the ear,
Mm-hmm.
fungal infection. I am seeing there is some gooby fungus type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And this hurts the dog because it's got a fungus in growing in its ear. Not like a mushroom, but like a fungal infection.
Mm-hmm. Would you be able to provide a healing to his ear?
Yes, that is okay with me. I love the dogs.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. I just heard I read somewhere that the dogs are the protectors of the 3D world, and the cats are the protectors of the invisible world. Is there any truth to that, would you say?
Not particularly. Both of them interface with the invisible world.
Mm-hmm.
And both of them are very much connected to the higher dimensions as well, sometimes more so than humans, because these little beings can see things that humans cannot perceive sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But the cats especially, they drift in and out of dimensions and are particularly adept at what you would call astral traveling or out of body experiences. The dogs are very good at this too, but the cats sometimes, some cats can dematerialize the body. So they are very, very skilled at this.
Mm-hmm.
They can dematerialize and then materialize back into the body while they are wandering. There have been many instances of cats doing this, and the people cannot find their pets for a little while, and then they find them again. And well, sometimes the cats are wandering the neighborhood, and sometimes the cats have dematerialized themselves in more rare cases.
Mm-hmm.
The cats that can do this ability, for example. And as for the dogs, I love the dogs because I used to have many dogs when I came to the earth the last time.
Mm-hmm.
I loved to have, well, the dogs as my friends as well. And they went with me, and and they were very kind companions to me.
Mm-hmm.
And
Would you
the
say?
dogs, they have more of a connection to the heart energy, actually,
Okay.
which is why I love them so much.
Mm-hmm.
They can really bring the vibration up so high in a room when they enter the room, and they can also absorb the energy that is discordant within the house. I meant to say
Mm-hmm.
the house of the family or the person. They can absorb their discordant energy and change it into beneficial energy for them.
Mm-hmm.
They are like transmuters of energy, the dogs.
With the pairing of the cat, does that have a an effect on the humans?
And what are you doing to the cats? Please explain.
Well, they just purr sometimes with
Oh, the purring.
the
The
purr.
purring. I could not hear what
Yeah.
you were saying. The purring. Well, the purring, it is just a vibrational response that is coming from their center as
Mm,
well. This is healing to the person. So when they are doing this, they are providing a healing frequency to you as well. But this also is very healing for them. Our animal friends are very, very special.
mhm. Yes. Well, thank you for healing his ear. Is there anything else that you would like us to know at this time, or are we complete for this session?
Mm. We are complete. I just want people to know to have an activation to begin to look within themselves more and more,
Mm-hmm.
and I am activating this entire time
Mm-hmm.
to bring down the matrix programming. This was the intention for the session.
Mm-hmm.
This entire time has been an activation to break down this matrix programming, which is why I had that irritating being screaming in my ear,
Yeah.
trying to interrupt the session. And
Mm-hmm.
it was caught because they tried to, the matrix is quite precious to them, but it is coming down, and I will not have any interruptions while I do this. So just know that that has been the intention, and you will continue to see it fall in the various ways. I will make that known.
And can we trust that this information will reach those that need it, need to hear it?
Yes, of course. Anyone who is interested in going to the next level of this, they will be drawn to this information. It
Mm-hmm.
will be reached out to them, and then they will see it.
Beautiful. Thank you for that.